Hi, I'm back here to talk about July piecing of tulip connectors. So first we're going to be taking and making our flip and sew rectangles. You need 8 each of fabrics of the rectangles A and B, and you're going to be using fabrics 2 and fabric 7. So I have fabrics 2 and 7 out here. I've made a couple of them. I have the blocks here that we're making, and you can see in the end the connectors where they'll be going. And also this is a picture here in our color guide. This is the block right here. This is a block we're making, and this will be going onto your tulip block. So we've done a lot of flip and sew. You know that I'm using the folded corner clipper, or you can be making them traditionally. So you need one of each side, mirror image for each block, and you need to have a total of 8 each, 8 pairs. Oh, and we have a kitty sighting. Okay, so you'll be putting your square up on your rectangle, and on this one I'm just putting my folded corner clipper this way. I'll be cutting this off here, getting rid of that, and then this will be full, you know, once I cut it, it'll be folding this way to make 8 of those. And then on this side, I'll be putting it this way, putting my folded corner clipper in this direction, cutting off that. It will be sewed and then folded up this direction and making 8 of those. Okay, now the key here is I generally always press towards the triangle, and that's great for 8 of them, but on the other 8, press towards the rectangle. That way when you go to sew them together, you have one press the opposite direction, and they'll nest together nicely when you sew them together. Okay, you have one going one way and one going the other, and that way they'll nest together. So if you can remember that, you might not remember it when you're making it, but you'll remember it when you're sewing, and then just go back and repress it the other way. Okay, so I have done that, and I have one sewn together, and I've pressed one the opposite way, and that way it's easy to match your point, and then it just lays flat, and then I just pressed it one direction or the other. It doesn't really matter, but you maintain your nice little 1/4 inch there when you're ready to sew it. Okay, so moving on, we're going to make our 2 strip sets, and one is with fabric 1 and no, it's not fabric. Is it fabric? It's not fabric 2.
3.
1 and 3. Is it? This isn't fabric 3. This is fabric 5. 1 and 5. Okay. I can't listen to my cameraman. He's messing me up. 1 and 5. Okay, so you're going to take 2 and one of those. You're going to press it together in one strip set. So they're saying cut it down to 21. It doesn't matter. You're just cutting 2.5 inch strips off of this, so it doesn't matter what's left over. But you will be pressing to fabric 1, okay, on this strip set. So this is one of your strip sets, and you can see the photograph right here. The other strip set is fabrics 1 and 3. Okay, and you will again be pressing to fabric 1 so that when they're sitting together they'll nest. Okay, that's your second strip set, and again it doesn't matter as long as it's, you know, they say 21, it doesn't matter. So once you have those done, I'll make a clean cut off of one side. They'll both be possibly a little raggedy. Make a clean cut off of one, and then you're going to cut 8 2.5 inch strips. So you end up with 8 segments. I've only cut one segment off for the sample, but you know, I've talked about this before, and you may or may not remember, but when after I've cleaned up my segment and I'm cutting my strips, I normally don't measure off the bottom in case it's a little wobbly. I measure off the seam here, and I kind of look at the seam on top to make sure that it's all going, because if you're just doing it off the bottom, sometimes this moves a little bit, you know. And then I will do a cleanup cut after 2 or 3 segments, just a small sliver, not a big cut, just a little one. So that way you don't end up with a segment with these squares, you know, a little like, what is it, a parallelogram, right? Okay, or some other something or other. You want it to be square. Okay, so make sure that as you're cutting along, as a right-hander, I'm cutting these strips this way. Make sure as you're cutting along, it's not starting to tweak, because it won't look that great. Okay, so that's my little thought process on there. So you need 8 of those and 8 of these. Make sure that when you've pressed, you haven't pressed a little seam in here. You know, these batiks press out very nicely, but it's really easy to press a little, you know, fold in there. So make sure they're nice and flat so that you have your full width. Okay, and when you lay these out, this is what it looks like. There's your setup right there, and that's why you're pressing to number 1, because then they'll nest together. And then this one is here. When I sew this one on, I'm sewing on this direction so I can see my intersection. Okay, and then it doesn't matter which way you press these. But now the exciting part is that you pull out your Tulip Block from page 4. Hopefully you can find those. And you're going to put them on each side. And then there's more. Go back and find your checkerboard blocks and add those on. Now, those checkerboard blocks have a color placement. Pay, as it says, pay close attention to the color placement of the fabric 10 squares. There's 4 tulip block rows set aside for the quilt assembly. Rows measure 12.5 inches by 48 inches. So watch your 1/4 inch seam, but watch the color placement here. So here's your tulip block, here's this, and then you remember your checkerboard square. But if you're looking for color placement, here they are in the quilt, and then there's your checkerboard square with those teals going one way and those pinks going the other way. So look at that layout, but you're doing this whole section across here, this whole section here, here, and here. I know we have a quilt coming together, okay? And maybe Jerry can scan up to the quilt over here, because this is what you're making right here, is this section here. Here's the tulip block and the section on the other side, and then here's the checkerboard right here. Okay, there's the checkerboard right around here. And then what I'm going to be talking to you next is how to make this little, what I call a drunkard's path, but they're calling it, I forgot. But anyways, there's the little curved piece, the other curved piece, and it's going to fit right up into your little rose block that's sitting, that we've been saving. Okay, so there you go. So we have a lot of pieces that are coming together. Okay, so I will see you shortly for the next video on curved piecing. All right.